Okay, so I have another story time. My plan was to do more story times. It really was. And I just got so caught up with everything else. So this story time has to do with my non-stop nosebleeds. And if you're wondering, they went on for a long time. So buckle up because it's story time. Okay, so basically what happened was I ended up getting not kicked out, but I ended up getting removed from school for 4 months, and I had to stay out because of my nonstop nosebleeds. Now, my nose is prone to nosebleeds, and no one knew why, because it would be so random. Like, it started off, and this is when I was young, a kid. Like, it started off when I was in the house, and it just got worse when I was going to school. But it started off in the house, and I would be like just sitting there in my bed, or I'm like walking down the hallway. You know what I mean? Like just something like normal. And boom, all of a sudden, my nose would just start bleeding. Now here's the catch. It would not stop bleeding for nearly an hour, and sometimes an hour. And you're probably thinking that's insane and that's actually impossible. No, it's not impossible. It actually happened. And I would get so lightheaded. And I remember sitting there, and I have to sit there sometimes like with my head down, pinching my nose, and it wouldn't work. So I have to tilt my head up, and that wouldn't work. And it's like nothing worked, and I didn't know what to do. My parents didn't know what to do. And so we would just wait it out with this towel that was like covered in like blood spots all over, this bloody bath towel. And so that was just like my life. Like, did it happen all the time? No, but it did happen often. You know what I mean? And again, like it was random. Just me sitting there and my nose would just start bleeding. Nothing even happened. And so, but it traveled on to school. I used to go to school. It was on the beach. Come to find out, that might have something to do with it. But we were on the beach. My nose hasn't been bleeding for like a few months at this point. So I was doing pretty well, actually. It seemed like it stopped. But anyway, my brother and I are walking up to the door. We get dropped off in the morning. We're walking up to the door. It's the start of the day, and he's walking in front of me, and he opens the door. But I think he struggled with it, and so he yanked the door, and his elbow hit my nose, like smacked my nose. And the teacher on the inside, her name was Miss McChesney. She was like, "Oh," and she saw it happen. And then we walked in, and she asked if I was okay. And we were kind of laughing about it. And she was laughing about it because she knew it was an accident. You know what I mean? So we were like laughing about it. She asked if I was okay. And I was like, yeah. I didn't even make it to the hallway. And my nose started bleeding. And I was like, oh, here we go. I had to go to the nurse's office. My brother ended up going to class. But I ended up going to the nurse's office. And I had to sit there. And first she was giving me tissues, and she told me to tilt my head up and pinch, not at the base, but on the bridge of my nose, like up here. And that wasn't working. So she started holding my nose. And so I'm just sitting there, my hands just to myself, and she's just pinching my nose. And we sit there for a good 30 minutes. And she's checking. She's like, oh dear, like what is going on? Like it's still bleeding. Tissue after tissue after tissue. So eventually she has to call my mom. My mom drives up, and I have to go home. And so the nurse said, like, it's not going to stop. I don't know what's going on. She has to go home. She's not going to make it. My mom, when she came, she already had the bath towel because we've been through this. Like, we already know. So she took the towel, and she was like, all right, come on. we've been through this, and she's explaining that, it goes on much longer than this. Like, this is a thing. So I go home. Unfortunately, that was the start of my nosebleeds again. That's kicked it up again. And so the next day, I would walk in. Nothing would happen. I would just walk into the school. I would make it down the hall. I'm walking to my class. Boom, my nose just starts bleeding. Just starts bleeding. So to the nurse's office with the tissues. Boom, I get sent home. And then there'll be like a couple days where I make it through, like I'm okay. And then it'll be like ongoing days where I'll go to the bathroom, boom, it starts bleeding. I'll make it to the classroom, boom, it starts bleeding. You know what I mean? Like, we're online, boom, it starts bleeding. And I kept getting sent home. One of the things that I really liked was because my favorite series of all time is Supernatural. And Supernatural was on around this time. This is when they were on TNT. This is like, you had Charmed play, and then right after Charmed played, Supernatural will come on. So my mom would treat me, and she would take me to McDonald's, and we would get an Egg McMuffin, hash brown, and we would go back home, and I would sit there. Once my nose stopped bleeding, I would sit there, and I was like snuggled up on the couch watching Supernatural. So that was a fun memory. I did like that. I really did. But unfortunately, it got to the point where I don't remember if it was the principal. I don't remember, because somebody in the special education room, somebody said that I had to take my papers. So, but I think it was the principal that ultimately made the decision and said that I had to stay out of school. And so what ended up happening was all of my work, because I've been in special education my whole school life, so all of my work went with my special education teacher, Miss Lily. And so it all went with her. We had to set up a time because there was a boy named Terrence. And Terrence, he wasn't allowed in the school either. For two different reasons. Terrence was just not a good kid, and he just always acted up. And then my nose wouldn't stop bleeding. So Terrence and I ended up having to have these private lessons at the library. And I think we would stay there for 3 hours doing some work with Miss Lily. It wasn't what I thought. I don't know. I really liked the setup, and I stayed there for 4 months. Like, I think it was like a situation. It was like a couple days out of the week. It was like I don't remember the days. It was like a Monday, Wednesday, Thursday type deal, and we would stay for 3 hours each of those times. Miss Lily would have all of our work that we needed to do, and she was sitting there with us, and we would like do our work, and it was just the two of us. And I actually liked that setup, just two people, Now, I didn't care for Terrence because his personality was so bad. Like, he was not a good kid. I wonder what he's doing now with his life. But, like, he was not a good kid. Like, he was a troublemaker. And so we didn't really talk much at all in school. But at the library, I don't know. I felt like I saw, like, a different side of Terrence. Ooh, like, he was, like, kind of nice. Like, he was, like, different. I don't know. Maybe because he was with the quiet kid. He just felt different. I don't know. Because usually he was, like, with his buddies. He was, like, with the cool kids. And so maybe that was why. But now you're with the quiet kid, all right? Now you're with the goody two-shoes. So that it probably just, like, humbled him a little bit. But he was, like, really nice to me. And I really enjoyed our time. Like, I just enjoyed, like, watching Supernatural in the morning, having free time, going to the library for 3 hours, waiting for Miss Lily, doing our work quietly, talking a little bit, going home for the rest of the day. And that was it. I don't know. It's like, at that moment, I was like, I don't even want to go back to school. Like, dude, I don't want to go back. Like, I'm done. I'm so done. That's what I was thinking. So that went on for 4 months. Now, the thing is, during that time, we finally found out what was going on. I had an appointment with my pediatrician. Her name was Dr. Dandridge. And so we did a checkup and everything and trying to figure out what was wrong. Well, she looked at my nose, asked a bunch of questions, and she said, we're going to have to cauterize her nose. So what's going on is she is too exposed to dry air. And the beach is not helping. The beach is so dry. And so the air around the school is dry, that environment. And in the household, she was asking about my mom smoking and my parents smoking. They don't smoke outside ever. They don't open the windows. They don't open the door. They smoke all day, all evening, every day. Dr. Danders was saying that smoke, that constant smoke, is drying her nose out. She lives in a smoke chamber. And it's constant dry air. And that's probably one of the reasons why you can't have the heater on, because you'll probably start a fire. It's so dry in there. Which was true. Like, we never had the heater on. And I don't even know how she busted that out. But anyway, it came down to, in the beginning, because the air is so dry in the house, because all of the cigarette smoke, and there's no ventilation, there's nowhere for it to go, dried my nose out. And she was saying something about the chemicals in the cigarette, the smoke, was irritating my nose and causing irritation. And that also did not help. Going to school constantly on the beach, because we were on the beach with the sand and that dry air also made it worse. So once I was going to school, it's like, yeah, maybe it seemed fine in the beginning, but then it was not fine. And so now my nose is bleeding at home. But then when I go to school, it's also bleeding. Basically, my nose was just too dry. I'm just constantly surrounded by extremely dry air, and sometimes with toxic chemicals constantly with no ventilation. And so she said, we're going to have to cauterize it. And my mom was like, okay, go ahead, do what you need to do, cauterize her nose. And Dr. Dandridge decided she was going to ask the hard questions here. And she was like, are you okay with me cauterizing her nose, knowing that the main issue is your smoking? If you're willing to accept that, I will cauterize her nose, and you're going to have to make some changes. Because I can cauterize it, but you're going to have to make some changes, or it's going to keep happening further down the road. Okay? Because that is the source here. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, this isn't going to end well. And it didn't. So what ended up happening was I didn't get my nose cauterized. My mom said, forget it. She said, forget it. Don't do it. We're not doing it. And so I didn't get it cauterized. And, which was a shame. But, she ended up buying me a humidifier. And she put it in my room. The problem is, the dry air isn't in my room. It's literally everywhere except my room. It might be my room too, but it's like, if you're going to put it anywhere, put it in the living room. But yeah, so my nose just continued to bleed, and I continued to have to stay at the library for more months, and which I didn't mind. It was like kind of annoying, but I really didn't mind like the vibe. You know what I mean? I didn't mind it. But yeah, so eventually it did go back to normal. But I just remember that time and having to take that much time off of school. I remembered like it was a big change, but it was something that I'll always remember, and something weird about my life, man. Like when I tell you an hour has gone past and it's still bleeding, I'm not kidding. Like, it was ridiculous. It was actually ridiculous. And I would get lightheaded. So that is it. That's my story time. And then I'll have, like, some more. Try to film some more. But that is the story of my non-stop nosebleeds putting me out of school for 4 months. I'm just happy, like, I'm not in school anymore. I'm happy that chapter's done. Like, just like my whole school life was just like a disaster. Just a disaster.